Amid major concerns, officials are pointing towards a serious escalation of violence in Jammu and Kashmir. Forces are on alert, even as there's more intel warnings. Even as we speak, there's a fresh encounter that is underway in Gando area of Doda district, where one policeman has been injured in the exchange of fire. 3 separate attacks have occurred in Jammu and Kashmir within a span of just 3 days. Let's look at them. A terrorist attack on a bus carrying pilgrims. On the day Prime Minister Modi and his Council of Ministers were being sworn in Delhi, pilgrims from Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, including young children, were killed. They were on their way to Shiv Khori Cave Shrine, from the Shiv Khori Cave Shrine to Katra. According to police, 9 people were killed and several injured, at least 33. And the indiscriminate firing continued on the bus even as it fell into the gorge. Reasi has been peaceful for over 24 months, with terror attack last in May 2022. And remember, Reasi is far away from the LOC as well. In Katwa, 2 terrorists entered a civilian's home. 1 CRPF Jawan has been killed and 1 civilian has been injured. 2 terrorists have been killed in a strong retaliation. In Doda, terrorists opened fire at police and army Jawans. Attack on army's temporary operating base. 5 Jawans and 1 cop injured. 2 terrorists were holed up even as the encounter had begun. In fact, encounter in several places are still continuing. All these 3 locations are significant for their geographical and strategic location. Tough mountain terrain and dense forests. An attempted response by the terror groups to pressure not only from security agencies but also significant pushback against terror from locals. In fact, my colleague Pradeep is on ground zero and spoke to locals about how they have been strongly against terrorists on the ground. These are the deferred visuals that we are bringing to you. But remember, as I said, my colleague has been on the ground and is going to be sending us the report. We'll get to it as soon as we can put it up on the screen. Now, it was in January 15th that Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, said an increase in terror activities has been witnessed in the southern region of Pir Panjal and Rajouri Punch in the last few months. He asserted that the situation was under control and that he also emphasized that due to efforts of security personnel, there was a significant drop in violence in the interior areas of Jammu and Kashmir. Exceptions, though, now are visible. Remember, these terror attacks are being reported even as Amarnath Yatra, the season, is going to begin. And there are assembly elections expected soon. In fact, Jammu ADGP further said that the attack seems to be a ploy to disturb the Amarnath Yatra, also stating that our hostile neighbor, referring to Pakistan, always tries to damage the peaceful environment in our country. Prime Minister Modi has warned that those behind the attack won't be spared, echoed by top government leaders including J&K Lieutenant Governor as well as Amit Shah, among others. But the opposition is raising questions. Farooq Abdullah has said, we still have problems with our neighbor. We cannot solve this unless we talk to our neighbors. Why does the BJP government fail to catch the conspirators of terror attacks? Rahul Gandhi asked this question. Congress has raised questions on increasing attacks in Naya Kashmir. TMC has alleged Prime Minister Modi's slogan that Kashmir is peaceful is false. From the ground, if you could play that out.
कि पाकिस्तान से बातचीत करनी चाहिए। आपको लगता है कि सियासत आपको
बुरा समझते हैं? पाकिस्तान को साफ कर देना चाहिए, डायरेक्ट उसको बम गोला जो भी वो फेंक कर उनको जो एकदम नाम मिटा देना चाहिए।
मतलब ये जो सियासतदानों को क्या कहना
नहीं चाहिए?
इन सियासतदानों को क्या कहेंगे जो बातचीत की बात करते हैं?
ये बातचीत की बात तो करते हैं, जब उनके ऊपर पड़ेगा सर तब वो लोगों को समझ में आएगा कि क्या होता है, तब वो नाम नहीं लेंगे पाकिस्तान का।
And as I said, my colleague Pradeep is on the ground. He spoke to the locals who positioned themselves with stiff resistance against terrorists. Let's listen in.
कल आतंकवादी यहाँ पे पानी मांगने आए तो इन्होंने अपने दरवाजे बंद कर दिए, शोर मचाया ताकि सिक्योरिटी एजेंसीज यहाँ पहुंच जाएं और उन आतंकवादियों को जल्दी से जल्दी यहाँ से मार गिराएं। लेकिन आज आप देख सकते हैं कल इन्होंने आतंकवादियों को पानी तो नहीं पिलाया, लेकिन देखिए पुलिस के जवानों को किस तरीके से पानी पिला रहे हैं। और कोशिश ये है कि ये पुलिस के हर शख्स को जो यहाँ पे ड्यूटी पे है उसे पानी पिलाया जाए, आर्मी का कोई मिल जाए, पुलिस का कोई मिल जाए, उसे पानी पिला रहे हैं। और ये इनकी पूरी कोशिश है, जो भी इनके बहादुर जवान जो इसमें ऑपरेशन में पिछले 24 घंटे से हैं, उन्हें किसी भी किस्म की कोई परेशानी ना हो। मैं इनसे बातचीत करने की कोशिश करूंगा। कल आप लोगों ने दरवाजे बंद कर दिए आतंकवादियों के लिए, डर नहीं लगा? नॉर्मली तो डर लगता है।
देखो नॉर्मली लोग तो सहमे हुए हैं, लेकिन हमारे गांव के युवा हैं जो बेझिझक उनसे लोहा लेने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। कल कोशिश की उन्होंने आतंकवादियों के सामने खड़े होकर और अपनी आवाज़ से, अपने शोर से आतंकवादियों को गांव से बाहर भगाया है हमारे गांव। और हम बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं अपनी फोर्सेस के, आर्मी जवानों के, पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस के और जेकेपी के, पुलिस के।
Look at these packets of medicine that has been recovered from 2 slain ultras who were eliminated by security forces here in Sada village in Hiranagar sector of Kathua district. Here it is written, Rahman Rainbow, that's made in Lahore. Let me show you another proof. This is another Bajwa Sun. Again, this is made in Pakistan. And now look at this band-aid also. Again, it is made in Pakistan. So that means these packets of chocolate, these medicine, all made in Pakistan. They had infiltrated from across the border. They came out to this side only to spill blood of innocent people of Jammu and Kashmir. And unfortunately, our Kashmir-centric netas, they keep on saying that there should be dialogue with Pakistan. Let me tell Farooq Abdullah what kind of a dialogue you're talking about. This is an M4 series carbine rifle. This is a weapon of destruction. This is a weapon of death. They are not carrying with them chocolates. They are not carrying with them garlands. They are not carrying any kind of a mithai. They are coming with this carbine rifle. They want to kill as many people as they can. Not only this, this is another AK-47 rifle that has also been recovered from these slain ultras. That clearly indicates that these terrorists are here to spill blood of people.
And I'm being joined at this point by General VP Malik, who's the former Chief of Army Staff. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. My first question to you, what do you make out of what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir as we speak?
Well, we've had some incidents in Poonch Rajouri a few months earlier. And now in the last 72 hours, we've had 3 incidents. And the other thing that I want people to remember is that Jammu strategically is more important because for India and Indians, people go to Kashmir through Jammu. And now very soon we are going to have Amarnath Yatra. And all the tourists from India will be going along the highway from Jammu to Pahalgam and other places. So Jammu is very important, and these few incidents that have taken place, particularly in the last 72 hours, these must be noticed carefully. Now, one incident at Hiranagar has taken place very close to the border, international border. The other 2 incidents, one in Reasi and the other in Doda, these incidents have taken place far away from the LOC and the border. So which means that these are different gangs which are there, and the ones in Reasi and Doda apparently have come much earlier, and they have been there to notice what kind of security situation is there, and they have uh, targeted the people after reading the situation properly. So I think we have to be careful, and this requires a strong reaction, not only on our side of the border, but also on the other side of the border and LOC. But first, I'd like to say that we must strengthen our surveillance along the line of control and the international border. And that involves taking the population into confidence. Hiranagar incident, you would have noticed that these terrorists were spotted by the civilians, the locals. They gave information to the police, and then we reacted, the security forces reacted with police, and the terrorists were neutralized. In other two situations, terrorists seem to have got away. So the surveillance along the line of control and border, along with the civilian population, I think needs to be strengthened. If there is any complacency, we must get out of that. That is one aspect. The other aspect, I think, is, as I said, we must react strongly, because we can't permit Pakistan to continue doing things like this. We have a ceasefire with Pakistan, but it doesn't mean that we permit them to carry out this kind of infiltration. And I think that ceasefire needs to be made conditional, that if these activities continue to take place, then we should have the right to go across and do the strategic strike as we did earlier, or even Balakot. All these things, I think, will become necessary.
In fact, General VP Malik, some of these areas have been peaceful for several months. I mean, at least 2 years or more. There's been peace in these areas. So that also being a big concern.
You know, recently I was on a tour in Kashmir, and I noticed that while situation appears to be very good on the surface, but while speaking to some people from the security forces, I got the impression that they felt that things doesn't seem to be all right under the surface. So we have to be careful. The other thing is that the terrorists and their supporters, they are quite expert by now in exploiting wherever they find some space. Now, Reasi has been a space vacant for some time. We had pulled out some troops from Reasi and even from Poonch Rajouri. So wherever you find they find space, the security forces have been thinned for whatever reasons, then they will go and exploit that.
Okay. General VP Malik, do you see a need for a tactical change in India's surveillance?
No, look, if people, although I mean, I cannot deny the fact that small gangs of terrorists or in twos and threes, they can come through the infiltration checks that we have got. So we have to just review our surveillance grids along the line of control and the border. And in that, not only are the security forces should use their technology as much as possible, but we must not forget the human resource. Particularly, I find that locals. Now, Hiranagar incident, apparently these people had managed to come through the grid, but then they were spotted by the terrorists. So we need to strengthen our grids, surveillance grids, not only with the technology, but also with the human resource, particularly the villages that we have along the line of control and the border.
Okay, General VP Malik, I don't want to drag you into politics, but Prime Minister Modi, Amit Shah, several top leaders have gone ahead and spoken about how there's been a drastic drop in terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. They've said this over a period of time, particularly end of last year as well as the beginning of this year, also in light of the abrogation of the article as well. Now, my question is, does this need a revisit?
Look, there is no doubt statistically things have improved a lot. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that we become complacent, because I can assure you, wherever any complacency, wherever any complacency takes place, it will be exploited by the adversary. They have been indulging in this kind of activity for last so many decades now, and they have become expert. And they will continue with their proxy war, Pakistan Army in particular. Some people say that we should talk to the Pakistani politicians. I mean, that has no meaning at all, because all this is being orchestrated by the Pakistan Army and their terrorist outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed from the other side. And they have become expert in exploiting wherever they find a loophole in our surveillance system.
Okay, my last question, General. You look at the timing of these terror attacks. You've had the Lok Sabha elections. You've had the Amarnath season is going to begin. Amarnath Yatra season is going to begin. And also you have assembly polls around the corner likely very soon.
Yes, I said, you are right. That's why I said that we have to take these things seriously, particularly Yatra, which is coming up. I think by the end of this month, they will start. The Yatris will start moving from Jammu all the way to Pahalgam and Baltal. So now we will have to strengthen our security grid all along the highway. And we have to be more careful. You cannot rule out even two people with guns. They can cause a huge problem on the Yatris. It has happened earlier. It has happened in Pulwama also. It was during that season only, and it can happen. So we have to be very careful in establishing our security grid along the highway. As far as the elections are concerned, I know people are wanting to hold elections, but I feel that we must stabilize the security situation before we indulge in. We've had good elections for the parliament, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean the situation will carry on. The other side is looking at it, and they will connect and they will try to disturb things as much as possible. So we must assess situation very carefully before we declare elections or start holding elections in the month of September or whatever date the government decides. It may even have to be postponed if the security situation, in my opinion, if it is not all right, then we may have to postpone it to next year.
Right. General VP Malik, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. And I'm also being joined right now by SP Wade, who's the former DGP for Jammu and Kashmir, as well as Lt Gen Sanjay Kulkarni, who's a defense expert. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Let's just take it forward from where we left it with General VP Malik, for that matter. Let me come across to you at this point, Mr. SP Wade. Even as we speak, there's encounter operations that are underway in Jammu and Kashmir. Is there a concern about how it seems or how it appears about experts, including, for that matter, General VP Malik, who spoke about possibly infiltrators who had already entered and had surveyed the area, surveyed the terrain, had passed on communication? Is there a renewed concern over how this has panned up, a series of attacks?
Yes, see, this has been, in my view, a planned hype in the terrorist incidents. It's not unplanned, and look at the timing when Prime Minister was being sworn in with his cabinet for the third time. This is to convey a particular message. As far as Reasi incident is concerned, I believe it's the handiwork of the terrorists operating in Rajouri Poonch. Already we have information about certain groups operating in Rajouri Poonch for last one and a half year, and they have already caused a lot of damage. As far as Kathua incident, which yesterday happened, it appears to be a fresh infiltration from the international border, and they had crossed over, as General VP Malik was saying, crossed our security grid, but it's the people who had identified them as terrorists and informed the police and army, and then operation started, and two terrorists were neutralized. As far as Doda firing is concerned, as per my information, a group of 6-7 terrorists had crossed from the international border, probably, or maybe from Punjab. That is a matter of investigation. And this group had actually was trying to go towards Doda, and when it reached Basantgarh area of Udhampur, it had a contact with Village Defense Committee group. There was an encounter in which a BDC member was martyred in Basantgarh Ilaka. And then the very same group had gone ahead towards Bhadrawa and divided into two groups. One had probably gone towards the hills of Kathua district, and other towards Bhadrawa. And I think that group had yesterday fired on the army and the police picket in Chhatargala, where 5 of our Jawans got injured. And today also there was a report of encounter in Gando Tehsil. I think it could be the same group. So these are different groups who have infiltrated in different times, and there is sudden hype because probably there are instructions from across their masters.
Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, to what SP Vaid has also said, is there now a strategic change to how these terror attacks are unfolding, and how is India's response to be seen?
Sneha, first and foremost, we must understand that Pakistan uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy, which has been there all along, and Pakistan is the hub. We have to raise the cost of Pakistan, raise them so high that it makes it impossible for them. We've tried all our means. Obviously, we find Pakistan on an economic back foot. They are finding it very difficult to pull along. They've been going all over the world wanting to stabilize the economy. So we have to raise the cost. We have to ensure that the army in Pakistan, which is entirely responsible for all actions that take place, because ceasefire and all that is just a cover under which they are making ISI operate, they're making the ex-servicemen operate, and obviously you find north of Punjab where the security grid is reasonably okay, and we've had the elections there with almost 54% turnout even at places like Baramulla. Now south of Punjab, certain areas, of course, joining the Pak-occupied Kashmir, you find Rajouri Poonch. But this area of Reasi, which is approximately about 120 kilometers plus, of course, the Reasi is another about 30-odd kilometers plus from Jammu itself, and has the districts of Udhampur, Doda, and all adjoining it.
That's right.
But what is very important is, until and unless we raise the cost for Pakistan and raise them so high that it makes it impossible for them. And at the same time, our own constant surveillance, vigilance has to be there. We just cannot afford to get complicit for whatever the reason it may be. Synergy of all the forces is absolutely essential, because this area is vast. It's, the riverine terrain itself, the area is thickly forested. The population pockets are not necessarily at one place. Maybe the Jammu city may be concentrated, but having served in areas like Doda, Kishtwar, Bhadrawa, I can tell you, it's extremely difficult. It's not that easy to catch. And when we know of infiltrations that have been taking place, and you find that your general feeling is that, well, south of Punjab for the last about 30 years, things have been under control. A little bit of, there's been a surge of all these activities, terrorist activities in the last about 2 years, starting Rajouri Punch, now getting into the interior. Obviously, Pakistan is looking at wanting to bleed India with 1,000 cuts. Now propped up by China, supported by China in all means. Imagine the kind of weaponry being used. There you have politicians from the valley saying, well, giving almost a clean chit to Pakistan, and then within less than 24 hours, we have this terrorists being caught with all these kind of things. They're absolutely made in Pakistan. So we have to raise costs. That's what I feel for Pakistan. And make the world know that Pakistan is the hub, continues to be a hub, and needs to be isolated and make it very difficult for Pakistan. Probably that might have some sense. Otherwise, the Pakistan army has $20 billion business every year. So they are quite self-sufficient to be doing what they're wanting to. Yeah.
Okay. SP with... Let's look at, there's of course a lot which is being spoken about operation by security forces, whether it be the police or the other security forces, including the army for that matter. But how do you look at what seems to be some very strong offensive by the civilian population as well? A strong pushback against terror from the civilians, from the locals. How is that supposed to be seen?
This question is to me, Sneha.
Sneha, first.
Yes, Mr. SP Ved. That's for you, Mr. SP Ved. This is for SP Ved.
See, Sneha, civilians have a great role. Let me mention here the village defense committees. I think many of them have laid down their life fighting terrorists in Jammu regions, hilly area of Doda, Kishtwar, Ramban, Mahor, Tehsil of Reasi and Rajouri Punch. And even in Kashmir, civilians have played a pivotal role. In Kashmir, they may be scared of coming openly, but then they have been, all the information coming towards J&K police is from the civilians. And let me mention here, more than 90% operations are based on information by the local police generated through the local people. And in this belt of Jammu region, people are very, very pro-national. Even Rajouri Punch, they have been very, very sportive. In fact, we have used very effectively the young boys of Rajouri Punch in fighting terrorism in Kashmir Valley. So, role of local population is very, very positive. You may have few black sheeps here and there who may be under coercion or under for money consideration helping the terrorists. But overall population in Jammu region, where you are seeing the upsurge, has been very, very supportive of the security forces. And Kashmir also, I have worked in different capacities. The role of people has been very positive.
Right. In fact, I have so many more questions to ask both of you, but allow me 2 minutes. Let's just quickly listen into some of these political reactions that have come in. And in that context, I have an important question. I'll not drag you into politics, but based on that, I do have some important questions and what this means for India. But let's just listen in.
And we have a yatra coming now, which is a major yatra. Any small incident that might take place in that will be blown up in the rest of the country. And we Kashmiris are not responsible for these things. We have never favored these things. We still have problem with our neighbor. And the problem with neighbor will not be solved by military action. Unless we talk to our neighbors, we will not be able to solve. These terrorists are coming over the border. And they continue to come. Whichever government tomorrow is in here, we'll have to still face the same thing.
कुछ जो पुंछ राजौरी की ओर यहाँ पर गतिविधियाँ बढ़ी हैं निश्चय ही चिंताजनक है। कठुआ में जो इस प्रकार का अटैक होना, इससे पहले रियासी में होना, खैर इन लोगों को ढूंढ तो लाया जाएगा और मार भी दिया जाएगा, लेकिन जो यात्री बाहर से आए थे एक उनका पर इस प्रकार की हत्या करना, ये अपने आप में बड़ा दुखद है। सुरक्षा बल अपनी रणनीति बनाते हैं समय समय पर, उसी के आधार पर यहाँ पर शांति व्यवस्था पहले भी बनी है। और यहाँ पर जरूरत है कि नागरिक भी अपने आप में जागरूक रहें और जो लोग इन्फॉर्मर्स रहते हैं उनका भी पुलिस को पता दें, क्योंकि सभी की इन्वॉल्वमेंट से ये चीजें संभव हो सकती हैं।
Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, my question to you is this. There's a ceasefire. We also had General VP Malik speak about that. You have Amarnath Yatra season that's going to begin. We have elections round the corner all over again. All of this now seems to be under the shadow of escalating terror attacks. This is of paramount concern.
Definitely. Now, all that is very, very important because we have to have our eyes and ears everywhere. However much one might say that there are a lot of these overground workers, a lot of this sympathy factor. You find even amongst the politicians, the kind of language that they speak is indicative that there is still a kind of as if giving a clean chit to Pakistan on all occasions where they don't require one. You have seen the valley itself. If someone who's been imprisoned for the last 5 years gets elected as a member of parliament, is clearly indicative, and by defeating the ex-chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir. What does that show? So therefore, the need for vigilance is very essential. We need to really monitor. Now, all these areas south of Punjab have a mixed population. There are some areas like Reasi have 50% Muslims and 50% Hindus. And you have all other areas, Doda, maybe 55-45. May go down to Hiranagar and Kathua, there may be more majority of Hindus over there. So there's certain amount of infiltration, there's certain amount of tremendous logistic support. You just cannot enter and survive for yourself. You see those people, they're asking for a glass of water and whatever it is. So you can't orient yourself so fast. And therefore, there is a requirement for people also within the state itself to be able to say so clearly that they hate terror and they're going to fight together the terror. And together only we can fight. What security forces can do, they'll definitely do. Security forces don't open fire unless they're fired upon. So therefore, they are the first victims and thereafter they start off. Unlike the civilians who, I agree with the DG, Mr. Ved, who's been saying, yes, a lot of information flows from there, but a lot of information also flows from them to these terrorists, as a result of which they're able to survive. And therefore, there's a need now to be very, very vigilant, to have our eyes and ears, use all means, electronic, human intelligence, all kinds of things available to us to ensure that no such breach takes place. Yeah.
Right. Last question to you, SP Ved. We are totally out of time, but I just have to ask you this question. Tell us a little bit about this geographical location. I mean, there's a lot which is being spoken about how this Pir Panjal area, the southern mountainous areas, they are proving to be advantages for the terrorists. Is that so?
If you, Kashmir Valley is largely plain area and surrounded by hills, whereas Jammu region is rugged mountains, very high mountains, thick forest, ravines, and very, very difficult area to operate. In fact, I recall the days when I was young SP coming from Kashmir Valley. I was SP Badgam, passing through National Highway in Doda. So I used to wonder when terrorists come here, what will happen to, and true, that is what after a year and two, it started happening in 91, 92. And I think one of the most difficult area has been the hills of Jammu region, where we lost so many brave hearts. But village defense committees actually proved to be very, very handy. And these hills absorb a lot of troops.
Right.
You have brigades and battalions getting absorbed in these hills. So operating here is very, very difficult. I think, and it's the very less connectivity, unlike Kashmir Valley. So that is why Pakistan is focusing now, after suffering setbacks in Kashmir, focusing in Jammu region, taking advantage of these features of Jammu region. That is why there are a lot of places to hide. And I think that is the reason it wants to ease the pressure of the forces in Kashmir Valley, so that forces are
Right.
spread in Jammu region and they have their free run in Kashmir Valley.
SP Ved as well as Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, thank you very much for joining us, for giving us your time and some extremely important perspective on what's before India. And unfortunately, even as we speak, there is an anti-terror operation encounter. Not only just one, actually, there could be just about a couple of encounters that are underway as we speak. Shows just what India's strong response to all of this is. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.